activity, or put another way, what are the reasons for it? So that's what we're going to address today. And almost as a reminder, really, I want to talk to you about what activity or participation might look like. We are saying that if a child is active, we would expect them to be doing 7 60-minute activity sessions per week. Now, again, activity could be all kinds of different things. It doesn't have to be sporting. It could be anything that gets us out of breath. And we do recommend, obviously, it's recommended one of these is a higher intensity experience. And we're saying for adults that we would be hoping that they might be active for 5 times 30 minutes a week. And again, this could be strenuous gardening, it could be washing the car, it could be going for a walk, a run, it could be sport, it could be going to the gym. All these things could be included. Now, the question we're asking is, well, let's assume someone's doing that, or let's hope that people might do that. What are the compelling reasons for that to be the case? And I want to categorize these compelling reasons, if I put it that way, into the physical, into the mental. Put that over here in kind of a purpley colour, and let me just sort of drag down, and I'll use a bit of space down here, and I want to categorize this into, let's refer to it in green as the social. Okay, so these are the categories of the reasons why. So let's go back up here. I want to talk about the physical reasons for participating regularly in physical activity. What might there be? So let's just put some obvious things. It makes us healthier, right? So we might expect up arrow, which means an increase in heart function. So our cardiac health improves. That's a great thing, right? So we might also expect something like an up arrow, an increase in the efficiency of body systems. Now, this is a real general term, I must confess. We could be talking about healthier blood and the fact that our red blood cell count might be higher. We might be talking about the strength and the elasticity of arteries and arterioles becoming stronger or less weakened, for example. These are some of the things that we might be referring to. Our metabolic rate might improve, and so on. Let's keep going. Let's also look at a decreased risk, down arrow risk, there's a down arrow, believe it or not, decreased risk of some illnesses. Now, what do we mean by that? Now, you've probably learned in your biology subject of something called non-communicable diseases, things such as type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, for example. Even certain forms of cancer might be less likely because we are active and we're participating regularly. Some of the risk factors associated with those. So those illnesses become less typical, less predictable. And also, we might become better able to do everyday tasks. Now think about what these might be. These might be walking to work. These might be stretching to reach something. This might be lifting a sofa because you're moving house, or whatever it might happen to be. These tasks become achievable or more achievable because we've got this physical benefit of participation. And finally, and I think this is a really important one, it helps people to avoid obesity. So remember, obesity is a BMI of greater than 30. I'll put this in brackets up here. It's a BMI of greater than 30. Okay, that's what we mean by obese. And that, of course, is an indicator of potentially serious ill health. Again, you'll know from your biology studies probably about how that relates to other conditions. Now, what about these mental benefits? What do we mean by this? And let's say these are mental benefits and well-being. Okay, so I think we should put both terms in. Well-being, mental benefits and well-being. We mean both things. So let's have a think about this. So we are going to experience, down arrow, less stress and tension. Why? Because activity has what we refer to as a cathartic approach. I'll write it up here. I don't think it's a really important word. I tell you what, it helps if you spell things correctly, James. Goodness me. Cathartic. A cathartic approach, a cathartic effect, it means it releases tension, it releases stress. Secondly, one of the other benefits is that we get the release of hormones. Now, I'm going to be really specific here about one example of a hormone. Again, you guys will probably know in biology about the importance of hormones in negative feedback loops. But here's my example. I'm going to tell you serotonin. Okay, so really, it's basically a feel-good hormone, and it's released through participation in regular exercise. And finally, guys, on the social on the mental side, we're better able to control emotions. Okay, so we get emotional control. Now, I happen to think there are some other emotional or personal benefits to participating regularly. I mean, I would include things such as like personal challenge in there, for example. I think it's a nice one. We might say that a decreased likelihood towards something like depression, for example. So that we might be able to place those in some of what I've just said there. Now, excuse me, on the social side, the sort of, if I refer to this as social health and well-being, that's really what I should be stressing, as social health and well-being. What are some of the benefits here? Well, let's just state the obvious one. Participation, especially if it's group-based or team-based, let's say a badminton club, for example, is an opportunity to socialize. Human beings are social animals. I actually I'm recording this video right at the end of the COVID lockdown, at least the one we had in 2020. It's actually June at the moment, and we're just sort of starting to come out of it. And you can see how impacting it is when people can't socialize easily. Okay, this means that people can make friends, and it leads to better health. Remember that health concept we talked about previously. It also leads to cooperation, especially sport, I think, is really good for this. Cooperation, developing things like teamwork skills. This is a really, really positive aspect of being something like a games performer, for example. And finally, social health is it helps us to, I find this quite a tenuous one, but let's put it in there. It allows us to develop essential human needs. I don't know if you're going to try and guess what you think I'm going to write down next here. Might not be what you're thinking, but it allows us to be sort of able to find and gain food and shelter, and also things like clothing, which seems a bit of a tenuous link, but I think the point that's trying to be made here is that this participation in regular exercise makes us kind of have a higher capacity on a human level. And what things do ultimately humans need? They need these things. And there we go. That's where we are. Now, my final point for you guys today is about what I would refer to as the cycle. All right, so let me just write this in here. I'm not talking about any kind of bike here. The cycle, let's put it that way. If we participate regularly, we get an increase in fitness, the ability to meet the demands of our environment or to complete those tasks. If we become fitter, okay, we also have a decreased likelihood of injury. We could also say there to do with, for example, illness could be included in that. And if we've got less likelihood to be injured, then we also increase our capacity to work or to be productive. And if we do that, we receive more gains, and that increase in productivity can potentially lead us to be more active and therefore to increase fitness. So this is a cyclical nature of how these things work. I don't think it's the only cycle, but it's one that's worth knowing. Thanks.